So a conversation I have been looking forward to having is with Lance Lambert from Resi Club, because I want to talk about the potential of having 7% mortgage rates throughout 2025. Again, this is not my base call, but it is a call worth considering. And given that Lance Lambert is housing, he's got data going back decades. He's got data for the last 4 or 5 years. I think it warrants having a discussion. Who wins and who loses with 7% mortgage rates? Lance, how you doing?
Doing great. Housing. Always so much going on. The losers there. I think the biggest loser right off the bat is the mortgage industry. Right? They were finally getting a little bit of life from refi. Right? So mortgage rates had come down a bit. We got a little bit of some unemployment readings in the late summer that kind of spooked the markets, right? The unemployment rate shot up to 4.3 for a bit. And that was up from the cycle low of 3.4 a year earlier. That kind of rattled the market. They were kind of thinking, well, maybe there could be a recession, right? And so as the 30-year fixed mortgage rate fell and hit its low of 6.11 on September 11th, 2024, a few weeks back, refi started to get going a little bit, right? And that's the first time we've seen any life from the refi market since the Q1 2022. It's been a dead market. And what was occurring there is some of the folks who had, a 7, even up to an 8 from last fall, 30-year fixed mortgage rate, the buyers of, the vintages of the second half of 2022, 2023, and the first half of this year were using it to get some relief, right, on the refi side. And then there's some other folks who were kind of starting to think about maybe, tapping into a little bit of equity, right? Maybe they have something to put it to use to. Now, you're not going to see a ton there, right? Because people don't want to take on that level. And HELOCs is even a higher rate. But you were getting a little bit of life in that market. That's gone, right?
Yeah.
Mortgage rates coming back up closer to 7, kaput. You're not seeing that. And I think the big effect here is now, so the first initial effect is on the mortgage industry, right? They're not getting the juice they were starting to. The other big thing is the psychological effect for the entire marketplace. And this is for buyers, sellers, investors, agents, across everybody, right? Everybody was starting to think as mortgage rates came down to 6.11 that, we're finally down from the cycle highs. Next spring, we're going to be in a good place for mortgage rates, right? And so some of the folks who, have kind of put off a move, maybe they have let's say a 3.2% fixed rate. They were like, you know what? I've been waiting a while. I have more kids. I was never going to do a 7. I was never going to do an 8. But you know what? Maybe if it gets down to where I could buy it down and it's somewhere in the 5s, maybe I'll just make this move, right? And if they make that move, they put their home up in December or January when we start to see, the seasonal activity come, or into, February, then they would go and buy something else, right? But now rates going back up, they might have been out of their zone for it, right? And so that takes away a seller, takes away a buyer, takes away some of that resale turnover that the transactional side of the market really wanted. Now, investors, it's kind of a little bit of the same, but at the same time, because this rates were starting to come down during the seasonal slow period, and this seasonal slow period's been a moment where buyers have some leverage, right? And so they were starting to lose a little bit, but now it's coming back, right? And so I think that's going to spook some of the people who are selling, right? Because some of them who were selling might not have been ready for this rate environment, right? And they might have seen even some of the people who were talking about buying their home just ghost them, right? They might have moved out, because that little bit of a move, this 50, 75 basis point move back up, for some people, that's the difference between being able to afford the mortgage, being eligible for it, and not. So I think some of the buyers out in this Q4 have regained some of the leverage. They started to lose for a bit. And I think this, this window, this seasonal window here, buyers, investors, who are out shopping have little, they have some leverage in some of these places, especially in these Sunbelt markets with some more supply. Now, for next spring, I think, right now where we've moved back up to, it's probably a little bit more the same for now, right? Where there's probably going to be a little bit of juice in some of these markets that have low active inventory next spring. Some of the markets that have higher inventory are moving up. It's going to be, prices aren't necessarily moving down as much. Maybe they gain an itty bitty amount of leverage. But then as you move into next year's second half of the seasonal period, if rates are still here, then those markets where actives have moved up, buyers still have some more leverage. I just think right now where rates have moved to, it feels like Groundhog's Day. Every time the market starts to think that here we are, rates are going to come down, it's finally happening, the rug kind of gets pulled out from under us. And we're just kind of grinding along in this very constrained market where, the amount of turnover, right, in the existing home market is just very low at the moment, historically low. I mean, if you start to add in things like accounting for population levels, this is,
historic lows.
Historic low. Yeah. It's very low level of resale turnover.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's going to be very interesting, and I think we saw it in the last 48 hours, the last, let's call it 30 hours, existing home sales and new home sales, right, for last month. I think the losers are, home sellers, right? And the winners are new home construction. Why? Because new home builders aren't playing with 7% mortgage rates. They're playing with 5s and 6s. And I think new home builders win in an environment where existing home sales are 7% and above. It does feel like there's a couple of winners at 7, and the number one is new home construction. What do you think?
I think the builders, with rates coming back up, I'm not necessarily so sure how much of it's a tough question, right? Because there's the idea that builders are benefiting from this market because there's not as much resale turnover, right? But at the same time, if there was more, that's also another buyer too, right?
True.
And if the market were to see, rates come down and more of that churn could come back into the market, right? We would see some more supply on the existing market come in, new listings, but we would also see that unlock another buyer as well. Plus, there's the marginal demand on the side. So I don't necessarily know that, builders are benefiting or losing if rates go one way or the other, right? I think what's really, when you get to the brass tacks of it, is that we're in a secular market that needs more homes, right? And so even though we don't have more turnover, I think the builders are in a place where they're going to continue to be building, right? So for them, if we did see rates come down and we saw more of that, more of the existing supply come in and the market's also weakening and actives are moving up, that's probably the market. Then builders aren't doing as well from it. But if rates come down more, the economy's still stable, more buyers unlocked, and it kind of all evens itself out. Maybe it's not too much of a move for negative builders.
I think we're gonna see it going forward. And to me, this feels very much like the summer of 23 to me. If you guys don't remember what was happening in the summer of 23, Olivia and I happened to be shopping for properties in a new market we moved to, and we were going around and we were looking at existing home sale or existing properties, and we just stopped by a new home community. And again, to me, the price points were roughly the same. The new home was maybe 50 or 75K more expensive, at least at list price. But once they gave me a mortgage rate, which again, existing homes at the time would have been an 8% mortgage for me.
Wow.
They gave us $499.
Yeah.
And when you look at payment, even with a significant down payment, it wasn't even the same, let alone the fact that I negotiated like crazy, like I always do. But yeah, I really do think if we're in an environment where rates are 7, new homes builders are going to win. And I don't even think it will be close. because there's always a cohort of people that want to buy, even first-time entry level, like a new home buyer today, like first-time home buyer, you have to buy new construction in a world at 7% because there's not enough choices, and they're going to buy down the rates. But I think new home construction will be a winner. The other one you touched on, which I actually think is going to be a massive winner, is investors. And when I say
year 4,
yeah, well, I think if we just assume rates are 7% all of 25, which again, it's not happening. I'm just making that assumption. Investors win if they do the work, if they write lots of offers, if they follow up. Because what people don't understand about real estate is you make your money when you buy, and you make your best deals from motivated sellers. In a world where we have 7% mortgage rates, turnover, again, at a record low, first-time home buyers leaning new construction versus existing, what is left? You're left with investors and cash buyers.
Yeah.
And we can be a lot more selective. We can write disrespectful offers. We can follow up for weeks and months. And again, one of the big losers in that environment is a seller of existing home sales. Because again, your buyer pool just shrinks to nothing. So yeah, finding a motivated seller gets easier next year with 7% mortgage rates, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially when you're looking at the market where year over year active inventory on an aggregated national level is up, right? And so the longer that we stay in this environment where it's moving up, affordability is very deteriorated. Investors are going to get leverage, right? Yeah. So I think the big thing to watch here is watching active inventory in your market. Yep. And then also watching where the 30-year fixed mortgage rate is moving up. Big swings up, that takes out a lot of your competition.
Absolutely.
Big swings down brings in some more competition, especially in a shorter, brief window.
Yeah. And I just want to go back and hit one thing real quick. One of the biggest losers in an environment at 7% mortgage rates is first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers are really hurt. I mean, I don't know if you saw the numbers. I'm sure you did. They came in at a record low, 26% of all transactions, according to NAR yesterday. And I actually think next month it's going lower. We're going to hit a cycle low. There's not a lot of options. It's the unaffordability levels is pretty crazy. Not a lot of entry level housing. It's a tough time to be a first time home buyer if we assume 7% mortgages.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to cover for this?
No, I think the other thing we just need to touch on, you open with mortgages, but I think it's also interesting to point out that real estate agents in a world at 7%, there's just less transactions, anybody involved in housing in a real estate transactions does less transactions next year. That's kind of the closing thought.
Yeah. I think survive until 2025, which was starting to, a lot of people were starting to say, hey, that was really great that people came up with that. And they were saying that last month. This month, I think they're going to start saying survive until 2026. Yeah. Exactly. And I'm pretty sure there was survive until 2024 at one point.
There was. I can guarantee you there was. And then 25 and now 26. Well, folks, if you want to get up-to-date information on housing, there is no better option than going to ResiClubAnalytics.com. You see it on the screen now. You will get free articles each and every week. You'll have an ability to upgrade that to some unique articles and access to data. Lance, closing thoughts, and thanks again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. If anybody wants to see my maps, charts, get my newsletter, go to ResiClubAnalytics.com, put in your email, you'll get on the free list. I also have a premium product that does 3 additional research reports every week, usually looking at home price trends across the country, inventory, and sometimes we're looking at like second homes or what's happening to land values. So really just trying to stay at a pulse of what's happening in residential real estate across the country.
Folks, ResiClubAnalytics.com. Go there right now. Have a great day.